Welcome back. We are joined now by Representative Julie Johnson. She's a Democrat of Texas and a member of the Foreign Affairs and Homeland Security Committees. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here this morning.
So tell us a little bit about your background and what your priorities are for Congress.
Well, I come from the state legislature. So I served 3 terms in the Texas House on judiciary, insurance, and appropriations, focusing a lot on healthcare policy. Unfortunately, Texas leads the nation in some very undesirable statistics. We lead the nation in maternal mortality, we lead the nation in infant mortality, and then lead the nation in persons without access to health coverage. So that was something I focused a lot on in the state legislature, and I hope to do that in Congress. And I'm a lawyer. I practiced law in Dallas for 33 years. I'm married and have 2 sons.
And how's it been so far? You've got a month in. How's the first month been?
It's crazy. It's been it's a fire hose for sure. Getting used to it. I think having the legislative experience from the state really does give a leg up to those of us that have that experience. And in the freshman class, I'm really amazed at how many of us come from the state legislature. I think we have one of the most capable, experienced freshman classes coming into the Congress, and it really has made a difference. And so a lot of my staff has been with me for a long time. Understand the process, just getting used to DC and trying to figure out my way around those tunnels.
It is confusing. I mentioned that you're on the Foreign Affairs and Homeland Security. You recently took a trip to New Orleans,
Yes.
Which is where the Super Bowl is going to be played this Sunday. Tell us about that trip.
Yeah, so the Homeland Security, I'm on the Emergency Management Subcommittee, and they had organized a trip down there to inspect the area where the attack had occurred on January 1st and make sure that security measures have been remedied to prepare for the Super Bowl. It's a Tier 1 security level event, meaning that it's the top level of security and that the federal government on all levels are involved in that. But the thing that was really disturbing to me was that the FBI special agent in charge for New Orleans was terminated, as opposed to Trump's wholesale cleaning house of the FBI and destruction of that. And right before the Super Bowl, after years of planning, I think that was irresponsible and reckless on his part.
So who's in charge now of security for that event?
There's folks in Department of Homeland Security, and they're doing a great job. People have been planning, but it's a multi-governmental event. There's multiple agencies. They all have pieces. And as you know, whenever if there's a weak link in any of it, it exposes all of it. I was just really disgusted at the complete dismantling of the FBI, the agency that's responsible for Homeland terrorism investigation and many other things, and that they would remove somebody who was so critical to that mission to keep the people safe in New Orleans. I just think that was irresponsible on part of the Trump administration.
If you'd like to join our conversation and ask Representative Julie Johnson, a Democrat of Texas, any questions, you can do so. Our lines are Republicans, 202-748-8001, Democrats, 202-748-8000, and Independents, 202-748-8002. Your website says that you're the first openly gay member of Congress from the South. So I want to ask you about a couple of things. The first is the Trump administration's revoking of the order to allow transgender troops to serve in the U.S. military. Tell us about how many people that would affect, as far as active duty and Guard and Reserve, and what impact you think that might have.
Well, it's my understanding that it affects about 10,000 servicemen and women. And again, we have people who are willing to put their life on the line for this country, who are willing to put themselves in harm's way, to defend the values of equality for all, for everyone. And the transgender members serve with valor, they serve with distinction, they serve with honor and bravery. And to just unilaterally, wholesale dismiss them is disrespectful to our men and women of the military, everyone that serves. To say that you can be just summarily discharged from our military service, even though you have served with exemplary honor, just because the president doesn't like a characteristic of you, has nothing to do with the quality of your service. It's just disrespectful to everyone that serves. And it's really unfortunate. We don't have enough people wanting to serve our country in that role, and to start filtering out a whole segment of folks, not because of their abilities, not because of their qualifications, but because of a political ideology that has nothing to do with their service, is really unfortunate, in my opinion.
So how do you think the Congress should respond to that? Advocates who disagree with that and other orders related to LGBTQ plus issues, how do you think they should respond in today's Washington?
Well, I think we need to pass legislation. We need to pass the Equality Act that confirms that the LGBTQ community cannot be discriminated against, that we deserve full equality and not bigoted, biased policies just based on who we are. The other thing that is really disturbing about this whole situation is that the Trump administration has just summarily removed transgender and queer people from all government websites, travel advisors, everything. If you go now on the government sites, it used to say LGBTQ, and now it just says LGB. They just took it off. And it is so irresponsible, bigoted, discriminatory, and biased. It's just outrageous to me.
And what are the chances of that Equality Act passing in a Congress-dominated majority Republican?
Probably not very high, unfortunately. But, there are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer people, LGBTQ people in every single district across this country. Every single member of the United States Congress represents people in the LGBTQ community, and they have an obligation to represent all their constituents, in my opinion.
I want to ask you about tariff policy. Since you're from Texas, in 2023, Texas exported about $130 billion worth of goods to Mexico. It's also home to the nation's largest port in Laredo, among the southern border. Mm-hmm. What do you think of the tariff policy so far?
I don't agree with it. I think the tariff policy will increase prices. It'll make life harder for people in this country, for people in Texas. It'll make groceries expensive. We import vast amounts of our produce from Mexico. Texas is the 9th largest economy in the entire world, more than many other countries, just the state of Texas. And Mexico is our largest trading partner. And so these tariffs will wreak havoc on our markets. It'll increase prices on a variety of issues and of areas where people just can't afford it. They couldn't afford it before, and they're certainly not going to be able to afford it now. And so for a party who supposedly campaigned on lowering prices, his policies are going to do everything but. I thought it was interesting that after he announced his tariffs, the stock market plunged and was on a deep dive, and it was the stock market that forced that correction.
And the Mexico tariffs have been paused for 30 days. Do you think that this is a good negotiating tactic for Trump?
To pause the tariffs? I think Trump...
Well, to say that we're going to put tariffs, get concessions, pause them, maybe get more concessions.
Well, he hasn't gotten any new concessions that the Biden administration didn't already have. He's not getting concessions. What happened is he responded to an uproar of a stock market crash because his financial policies were going to be destructive to our economy. And recognizing that this tariff policy and trying to bully Mexico is just not responsible governance.